Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 681. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the master of speculation, the Duke of the Sultan of Strategery, the bridge-defying, was caught skipping away from Walmart after dumping lime Gatorade on employees, swearing this is the true Lazarus Planet, and he remains the elder statesman of the podcast, Segulin.
That's great.
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be talking about Lazarus Planet and the first two tie-ins. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
DCBS, as we know, is a great source for comic books, but it's also a great source for statues and figures and whatnot. And I'm looking at a black and white Batman statue based on Denny's Cowan design. It's absolutely beautiful, brilliant, and wonderful. 201.24. Thank you, DCBS.
I hate you, too, because you mentioned this in one of our previous episodes, and I'm definitely buying that.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a wonderful statue. So, seriously, people, check out DCBS for statues and action figures and whatnot. It's a great source for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great way to pre-order it and get it and not have to pay, afterwards. Everything gets marked up when people end up reselling them, so it's a great opportunity. Over at InStockTrades.com, in the Coming Soon section, they've got Batman Beyond, the Neo Year trade paperback is releasing on January 31st. Milestone Compendium 2 trade paperback is releasing on January 31st. And the Air trade paperback, I loved Air by G. Willow Wilson. Air trade paperback Volume 2 is coming out on February 1st. Definitely check out the Coming Soon section because you can add any of the books that you're looking for to your wish list, and you can scroll down and you'll see stuff that is coming out for the next couple of months. All available right on InStockTrades.com. It's a great way to organize that. I miss a lot of trade paperbacks because when I'm doing my pre-orders, my budget's in a certain place, and I'll pre-order certain books and I'll teeter-totter around others, and it's a great way for me to grab some of the things that I'd missed before. Sometimes grabbing them when my budget is a little more loose. We all have those months where, okay, this month's getting a little too intense in what I'm pre-ordering, and you end up skipping on some things that you may have liked, and then the following month your budget may be more hospitable, shall we say, to some other trades and hardcovers, and that's where InStockTrades.com really pays off for me. So I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Without further ado, let's talk Lazarus Planet.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
So it's an exciting time to be a DC fan, and I want to say the rest of this episode was recorded prior to any of the news about the next generations of DC movies, TV shows, and things like that. I'm going to really quickly just record this piece because we just got some of the news today. This is just going to be a little taste. Jim and I will talk further about it in our next episode, but we're getting a Creature Commandos animated series from HBO Max. We're going to be getting Waller, which is a live-action HBO Max series with Viola Davis coming back as the character, which is terrific. Superman Legacy, which is going to be a live-action movie with Superman. It's going to be great. Lanterns as a live-action HBO Max series. The Authority, which is going to be a live-action movie, which that was one I was like, really, The Authority we're going to be getting. Paradise Lost, which is going to be a live-action HBO Max series, which is a Game of Thrones-type story about Themyscira, Paradise Island, home of the Amazons. We're going to be getting The Brave and the Bold, which is going to be a live-action Batman and Robin movie with a new Batman working with Damian Wayne. So it's going to be basically based on the Grant Morrison comic book run featuring Batman and Son. Very cool. Booster Gold, we're going to be getting a live-action HBO Max series out of that. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is going to be a live-action movie based on the recent Tom King comic, which was fantastic. Jim and I talked a little bit about it on the show. Swamp Thing, we're getting a live-action movie, which is going to be terrific. So there's a lot of stuff coming. This is a quick little overview. We'll talk further. One thing I want to say is we do a Speeding Bullets segment on this. We did not know any of this information at the time, so please take that little disclaimer on there. I thought it was worth just making mention of it. Anyway, exciting news. More we're going to be talking about, not just next episode, but obviously going forward, there's going to be a lot to discuss here. And it's great to be hearing more positive news coming out about some great things that we're going to be getting out of the DC universe.
You won't get away from me this time, Buster.
Our discussion's on Lazarus Planet Alpha. The writer is Mark Waid. Artist Ricardo Federico. Colorist Brad Anderson. Letters by Steve Wands. Cover by David Marquez and Alejandro Sanchez. Variant covers. First off, let me apologize for name butchering I'm about to do. Lee Garbett. Ben Oliver. Felipe Massafera. Masafera. Ariel Colin and Bernard Chang. Ricardo Federici. Pete Woods. Helene Lenoble. And Tiagra da Silva, Tiagodasilva. The assistant editor is Rebecca Bonham, and associate editor Dave Wheelgo's editor is Paul Kaminsky. And Supergirl is based on characters created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family.
Jim, you know what? Let me go ahead and do the Monkey Prince credits too, just because that way we can just talk about both stories and go from there.
Perfect.
So it's Jean Luen Yang is the writer, Billy Tan of Tan Comics on art, Sebastian Cheng on colors, Janice Chang on letters, Jessica Chen is the editor, and apologies for any name butchery there. This is an interesting event to talk about. It's I'm going to strangely say this wasn't what I expected, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's, I'm used to these events that we've had lately where you've got like the first book and then it kicks off like in this flow that follows like a chronological storytelling.
Yeah.
Where it seems like with this, we're getting like an alpha and an omega, and these other books are like fleshing out side stories relating to this event that's happening. And so it's an interesting event to talk about. I'm not saying I don't like it. I actually like that the storytelling and the stories that they're intending to tell are driving the layout of this event versus it having to follow the format Dark Crisis did, for example. So far, first issue out of the gate, I'm liking this event because I liked the miniseries Batman versus Robin that built into this. So it's more of the direction that I've wanted to see in this. I was expecting out of the last event, I mean, I guess spoilers, if you haven't read Batman versus Robin at this point, I would stop and pause this because we're going to have to talk about that organically in this because this was totally leading into this. So I would say stop right now, but that's going to be fair game. I thought Alfred was coming back.
Yeah, me too.
and I say that I wasn't like lock set into that where I was like, oh, it's 100% going to be that. They got me. And in the best part, like, okay, there was that part of me that even though they revealed him, I was like, okay, where's the swerve coming and that type of thing. I wasn't overly shocked that there was a swerve, but they pulled at my heartstrings in all the right ways. And I was sad that he did not come back out of it. Loved the story and wanted more of this.
Here's what I thought when Alfred first came on the picture. I was like, are they bringing Alfred back? Yeah. And then they reveal that it's really the bad guy dressed up as, pretending to be Alfred. Like, I'm like, but what if? What if they use a swerve? So I'm reading it knowing it's the bad guy, but thinking there's going to be that swerve. There's going to be that last minute, and this is going to be the return of Alfred. And it wasn't. And I was like, oh.
We did get elements of it, though. Because the whole bit where there was the essence of Alfred, there was a part of the essence of Alfred that was driving it. I thought that was really great. I loved it. I mean, I'm saying this, and I loved the story, but that it all worked for me, and it was
100%.
I wanted it though, and I knew we had to talk about this.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about this Alpha? What was your initial impressions of Alpha now that we're in this piece? Because we're really dropped into this from the cliffhanger from the last miniseries. Because there's Batman's in bad shape. Talia, Robin, and Black Alice are, flying on the scene because we're left with the bad guy kind of won.
Yes. Well, I'll be honest, I'm kind of in the same boat you were, where I wasn't thinking this would be you got your tried and true manner of how they deal to tell the story. This is Alpha and Omega, is the main story, and all the other side stories are bits and pieces of how different people are being affected by this. So it's kind of neat. I kind of like how they did this with how we have the main Lazarus story. We have our Alpha and our Omega. We're going to see what happens. But you've got all the side stories, seeing how they're going to play into it. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it right now.
Yeah, I am too. I actually like the difference because what I wouldn't want, I think, is to jump from the huge event that was Dark Crisis, I think, into another huge event that is formatted the same way. Like, this is giving me enough different that I don't feel like, well, we just got this kind of storytelling. Yeah. It's creative in the way that it's happening. The artwork in this issue is really stunning. I really, really enjoy the art team on this one.
Oh, big time on the art team. This is some beautiful work going on, and it's got it's got a creepy style to it.
Yep,
which fits the story being told. So I liked how, again, your art that you're getting is fitting the story being told. I've got a lot of favorite artists where if some of them were to come in here, they'd make beautiful work, but it wouldn't fit the story groove. It wouldn't fit the vibe that they're trying to tell. So that's something I, again, got to really commend on the creative team, that this is, the written story, the art, the colors, the letters, the full creative team working together to give us, the actual story itself. So, yeah, I'm digging. That's something that, again, as I said before, my art read through for this one was just a pure joy because you're sitting there and, what's not to love when Damien's the lead? Damien's the lead of the story. So you got to love that, but it's not a Damien story, though. It's Damien in the command position. Once again, not a reluctant leader. But he's throwing out his teams. He's picking, who he's got available. This is who you, boom, 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 you. I loved seeing that, and also loved in there how initially everyone looked at Bruce, and he's like, listen to my son. Flat out said, follow Damien's rule, follow Damien's lead. I love those moments.
Damien's one of those characters that I want to see continue to grow and evolve. Because you say he's not a reluctant leader, and I agree with you where you're going with it, but he's not a likable leader. He's in many ways, he's not a motivational leader. At times he is, where people, start to see him step up, and he shows moments of caring, where it's sometimes hard to see, but it's there. Bruce giving him the nod that he did, I thought was good. It showed where the two of them are at, because Damien's blaming himself very much for this event happening. And I get that feeling, but I like that Bruce is rational enough to recognize that this isn't Damien's fault, and Damien knows his dad doesn't blame him. I like that we've had like this continued evolution of their relationship going on here, where Damien does know his father well. And there's so many key moments that are done in this series, and we'll talk further in the second segment about some of the tie-ins. I really enjoy that aspect of this. I enjoy the characters we're seeing in this. Like, I love seeing Batman, Talia, and Black Alice. And Black Alice is a character who I've adored for years.
Yes.
All of these characters are, like, brought in for a reason. I also love that it feels very much that it's acknowledging what's happened in the larger DC universe. Like, this feels like it's happening after Dark Crisis, rightfully so. And we've got a world without a Justice League right now where we've got characters who are stepping up that aren't the Justice League because the Justice League just isn't on the table at the moment in its old format. So Damien has those bits where he's talking about the team that has shown up on the scene and that have answered the call, and they aren't the people that he would have picked, but he's working with the team that it's there. And I actually love the players that have stepped up. It's a good chance to spotlight some characters who I feel have either gotten some time in some recent events or maybe we haven't seen used. but they make sense to be a part of this particular event because of the nature of what's going on with magic. I really liked the cast in this.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And I like how, again, this storm and this is all affecting different people because it's not just magic users affected. It's not just Kryptonians affected. It's tech people. It's the everyday normal person getting affected. You know, and that's something, again, that's kind of cool to see this, you know, widespread chaos that is being created by this one little mountain, this one little volcano going boom.
Well, and the question becomes off of this, and the dangerous question of all this is, how many of these things, the effects that are happening here, are going to be permanent to certain people? When you know out of this event that there's a real good possibility that some people are going to gain additional powers, some people are going to lose powers out of this, maybe altogether. It's an interesting sort of event that's happening where there's a sense of danger, not the kind of danger where it's not necessarily every piece of danger is about death. It's about status quo change. It's about life change that comes out of this. And I'm really enjoying seeing, like, Blue Devil. I can't remember the last time I saw Blue Devil in anything.
I know.
I mean, if he's been there, it's been a background character. I actually loved his use in this. I thought it was a great character to, you know, have a chance to be a part of this. It's an eclectic mix, but yet so fitting for this. Like, nothing felt like, oh, why did they put that character in? It was like, no, they made sense to be there. And that was cool. It was a cool use of the universe.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned him, you know, and you just look at the initial page of everybody across the board. You're like, yeah, I wouldn't want this team. And you got to love that Damien's like, you know, I'll recruit them as they appear. This is not who I wanted, but hey, you deal with what you got. And it's neat. One of the other ones I was glad showed up was Mary Marvel.
Yeah.
Because, you know, again, you know, we see she has later on, she has a huge impact in the story. And it's, you know, throughout periodically, she's, again, magic user, affected by magic, affecting magic. You know, it was kind of a really cool just seeing this wide variety, you know, and it was neat that Power Girl was there as well. Now, I'm glad we had Supergirl because she's got the history, you know, with the demon, what's his Nezus, but seeing Power Girl answer the call, she is the Kryptonian who shows up. So again, I was like, it's kind of cool.
One of the things I really liked about this story, and I don't know if you had this reaction to it, it feels very reminiscent of what's going on with the company as a whole. You know, where we're in this transition period with the company where we're like heading to this new direction that's coming. We're seeing cancellations of things that aren't necessarily because we saw the announcement, I don't know if you saw it, that Titans and Doom Patrol, this is their final seasons.
Yeah.
But isn't due to James Gunn. This was something, or at least that's what they're saying. It wasn't due to James Gunn. It was already in the cards. But they're giving us endings. Like the seasons are wrapping up with a conclusion versus having a cliffhanger at the end, that part I at least give them credit. Like, please do that. And try to do that with any show that you're like heading in that direction with. And Superman and Lois are kind of being considered their own thing now and not part of the Arrowverse because of the fact that they're kind of winding that Arrowverse down. So that means good things, I think, for Superman and Lois in the sense that there's some plans to continue that show on, which is good because that's been really a quality show. So I'm for that stuff, but what we're not able to get, and we're certainly not going to be able to get for some time, we're going to get this reveal of like a roadmap that's coming up. Great. But I feel like that's all in flux, right? We got a transition that's going on that we're not going to see some payoff for this for quite some time because these things have to be made. We've got like going back then to this universe, we've got this dawn of DC happening right now where they're slowly rolling out new books and new directions and reimagining some of our characters. I'd say reimagining, more giving us the new status quo of some of our characters. And I feel like this story with this eclectic mix is like the perfect one for right now. Because it feels like this mishmash of characters are representative of what I'm feeling. And I like that in a weird way. Because I feel like it's almost like the right story for right now, because I want the continued forward movement towards the building blocks, right? So
Yep.
I feel like this is a story that's gradually taking us there, and we're getting to see some new things that are going to be unfolding from this. I don't know if you had that reaction to it, but it was something about the story. I'm like, why am I liking this one so much right now? I mean, obviously the creative team is kind of makes it easy, because it's a creative team I love, especially Mark. I'm a big fan of Mark Waid. But I feel like it's the right story for right now in its own way. And it was neat, timing-wise.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And this will actually, as you're saying, how with the dawn of DC and everything's changing, this is a good catalyst for that change. And this is a good way to show a change, and to maybe modify, augment different heroes. And it's not just a sudden change. Tell it in a story. Yeah. Make a change in the story. How is this going to affect Damian? How is this going to affect Bruce? How is this going to affect any of the Kryptonians, the magic users? We've seen magic, has been really messed up lately. Well, is this going to fix things? Is this going to get it back in alignment? Or is it really going to take, magic going to take another, crazy turn? Or again, the Kryptonians. That's the one I'm really wondering, how are they going to be affected in the end? Are we still going to have our Kryptonians the way they are? Or are they going to be different? Are we going to get different powers from different, maybe now a different Kryptonian will have a different power set. Not everybody will have the same Superman power set, or I don't know. And that's kind of the thing. I'm glad that they're using this story arc. They're using the Lazarus planets, like the coming up in the assault on Krypton, the other different other pieces out there to explain some of these changes.
Yeah, it was what I expected from this. I guess I got so used to like more of a chronological storytelling where the tie-ins were fleshing it out, which I guess you could say to a certain extent they are. But I guess I didn't expect like, bam, Alpha and Omega, and these were going to be the two issues that are really kind of filling everything in. I like the change. I mean, I like the choice. It's a story-driven choice. Did Supergirl's costume, have we seen this costume before? Because it felt fresh to me. I guess what I'm commenting on is I really liked her costume in this. And it's because we're getting this new, like in Action Comics, we're getting this new, kind of definition of the Superman family and the direction they're going in. I really liked this costume being in this particular book. It's a cool costume. I don't know if it stood out for you.
I've never seen that before, to be honest with you, but I agree with you. I like it. I give her pants, give her functionality. That looks good. I like it.
Mm-hmm. I dug it. Obviously, every artist has their own interpretation of current costumes. Like his take on the Damian costume, which is really cool. I really liked the art in this quite a bit. Yeah. That was something that really stood out for me in this piece. Especially when you got to like facial expression for interactions with characters, because there are some personalities in a mix here. You've got Supergirl working with Damian. They've got to defer to Damian now because Bruce gave him the nod, and somebody needs to be leading this piece. So he splits them off into teams that make a lot of sense. So Damian's strategy in this, which, is normally something we see from Bruce, but he is his father's son. And I really liked the chance for him to shine in this. There was nothing that he was saying that was arguable. He knew what he was doing.
Now, here's a question for you. Now, I agree everything you just said. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things I loved about Damian was the logic behind putting the teams together. Mm-hmm. Now, he has one piece where he keeps the Monkey Prince with him, and he doesn't want to put the Monkey Prince in play. Now, he initially makes it sound like he doesn't think the guy's got any use, to him. But part of me wonders if Damian is not, if he's playing his cards to the chest with the Monkey Prince. If he suspects the Monkey Prince is the ace in the hole against the big bad.
He uses insults to shut down debate.
Exactly.
I totally agree with you. That's how I was reading it.
Okay.
Because it's a Damian style choice. It's one of the things as a leader, I think I want to see Damian continue to grow and evolve. I don't want to see that be a rubber band snap though, where he goes to something else. I actually like how this felt like progression for the Damian we've seen. and take leadership roles in like Titans and things like that, but that it's not this dramatic jump. Because I feel like he's a character that there's a lot of life in like growing this character and fleshing him out. So I felt like it was progression, but not like this unnecessary drastic jump, because to me that would be uninteresting. I want to continue following the journey of him gradually growing. And I feel like it's something that you start to see here in the storyline, because he learned from what happened to him in the Batman versus Robin. You know, that storyline really, you know, he made some mistakes there.
He learns from his mistakes. That's one thing about Damian, you know, and he'll never admit that he was wrong. No. But when he's wrong, he acknowledges it and doesn't do it again. You know, and you saw it when he was initially with his run with the Teen Titans where he messed up. You see it with his Batman versus Robin mess up. We're seeing it now on this team dynamic where he again is in a leadership role where he's doing some stuff right, some stuff I don't know, Damian style. You know, so again, I want to see. You know, I enjoy watching the growth of the person.
I do too, and that's something that I think they're writing really well in this. I liked seeing the team interactions between Zatanna and Power Girl and Mary Marvel, where you get to see, or Shazam, whatever we're calling her right now. And it's not. I really like that. I'm anxious to see where the character goes, and I feel like I'm holding on to Mary Marvel because I want Billy. You know, so it's. I mean, there's a lot to talk about in this. We're going to obviously talk much further with them, but I liked seeing the team interactions as they're trying to figure out the Tower of Fate and how to get through it, and that it wasn't one of them. Mark Waid does a really great job of making all of the characters puzzle pieces in a scenario. So there was nobody here that was wasted. Even, you know, Cyborg and Blue Beetle, like what a team up that makes sense, right? Yeah. And there's something that the two of them can connect with each other. I love that there's dialogue about his tech versus the tech that Blue Beetle has, and one being a scarab, and you know, it was like the logical questions that two people in their scenarios would be asking. And I just thought there was just some really great personal moments that you wouldn't get with a different character in there. Really good choices.
Yeah. Again, neat. Again, always Blue Beetle. Anytime he's involved, I'm like, yes, I enjoy the character. But he and Cyborg is a team up I never thought. And you would think it would make sense, two tech guys, but a lot of times you don't put your two tech guys together.
Right.
You would have tech on one team, tech on the other team. So when they had initially there, I was like, that's kind of a cool team up there. Because you have two heavy magic users, you know, in Shazam and Zatanna, two tech, and then a powerhouse on that team. So that really shows that how much force Damian thought they need to get the tower. They need to get the tower back in play.
But also, to your point about this, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you out. It's more I want to add a little piece onto there and then jump back in. So please hold your thought. But the one piece that I think that's really critical part of that, Damian's also well aware of that. Yeah, while he's stacking this team, there's also some variability to the powers and what could be happening to them along the way. And he justifies that. I loved the justification. That part I thought was great.
Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah, and again, it just shows the strategy, shows the mindset of Damian. You know, we always do say he is his father's son, and he is, but he's also his mother's, son.
Yeah.
You know, he's a trained assassin. You know, so the League of Shadows, they're not, any throwaways either when it comes to strategy. So it is a neat to see how his mind goes. And this is again, the writing on this book, I 100% felt comfortable with every single character used. It completely, their personalities, the stuff that they're doing, fit who they were. It made sense for Beetle and Cyborg to actually have that little conversation. Power Girl throughout this. Yeah, she does. She does have some brains. She's not just muscle, but she is 9 times out of 10 a powerhouse when she does her fighting. With Shazam or Mary, whichever we're calling her, she's got the power of Shazam, but she is reluctant with it because she really is a new champion. Yeah. So there is a lot going on there, and just the dealings of Black Alice and the Monkey Prince were absolutely wonderful. Again, that's another one where they really got the character down, who these people are. Their sequences, their scenes together were absolutely brilliant.
What they did a nice job was recognizing when they need to put action moments in. Like the Silverhorn King, when he came in, it was the right time to have like an epic battle that showed why Damien was right. Because it wasn't just him, it was those creatures that were with him. And you got to see, people who are having some wonky things happen with their power, who are usually your heavy hitters, were having some issues. And I really liked that they were playing off that big time and giving us a reason for these two teams to be interacting. And when you go inside, because they're after Neza, for the purpose of like, let's see if we can recruit him and maybe get something out of him that's useful. But, now we've got Swamp Thing and Poison Ivy on the scene. And again, characters that make sense because of what's going on with the Green and what we know about Ivy right now. This was a great overview of just sort of some characters in the universe that let's bring them together. Let's explain where this universe is heading. I feel like this Dawn of DC, boy, January's been a really good month so far. As far as starting to, it's almost like the prologue of Dawn of DC. Leading into February, I feel like we're getting like this initial rollout, and I feel like this is a year of this I know it's a year of it. I feel like it, but storytelling wise, sometimes like you get that and it's bam, 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 bam. Instead, this is rolling out gradually in a way that I actually am really enjoying. It's a different sort of rollout versus getting every title in January, and it's week after week of like new titles. They're rolling this out at an interesting pace that it's different than some of the other launches.
And I'll tell you, I liked how the two big lackeys, are massive powerhouses, and they have their own character, their own personality, and that came out strong as well. Your villains, again, you've got to believe that a villain would have the power levels to defeat these two hero teams. And you gotta, if your villain's not strong enough to fight your heroes, then, or believably fight your heroes. And that was something I really enjoyed out of this. Not only just taking away from the fact that the heroes are a little bit powered down, they're up against strong villains. They're up against a credible threat. And that was something that, when you talk about just the story layout and just the usage of the different heroes coming into play. And, granted, Ivy is a questionable hero, but she's doing the hero role this one. The usage of the villains as well.
I think also the way that you get to see some like shining moments, like Supergirl's bit was really great because she's being beaten down and mentally, it's not just physical, it's a mental attack. Shaking her confidence and hitting her that piece. I love Blue Devils, like giving her this speech. Since when does Supergirl succumb to fear? And the look in her face, the defiance, it comes from that Kara Zor-El that we've seen since this one's reintroduction. And we've seen that gradual evolution of this character, but she's still in there. The one who's got that chip on her shoulder. And I love that slam of the hands. And we got to see that move forward. I think that's important in continuity where you don't ignore where the character's been as you continue to grow them. And I thought that was a really nice balance on this.
And she's got some stuff, she's got some own personal stuff in dealing with these guys. Mm-hmm. And I think that, again, that plays out from the World's Finest team up when they helped initially imprison Neza. And so I liked how that was played out in there because she has her own personal issues, but she is who she is. She does step up. And I agree with you. That was a really cool gut check moment. I like that.
I like when you see Kryptonians, particular like Supergirl, and they're all different in their personalities, right? But seeing Supergirl, again, fighting against magic, which would terrify a Kryptonian because you're used to having these, your powers and counting on your powers for what they are. So even when you're in moments, it's like kryptonite and magic are are like your two things that seem to really mess with you. And I like seeing those sequences, how magic's different in that scenario, where there's points in time where she can't counter her powers because she feels them fading in and out. And that's yet continuing to move on with the team, continuing to be a player on the team, I thought was really a great shining moment for her as well.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And again, some of the artwork, again, really played big on these sequences. Mm-hmm. On the action. Because, again, you have to have the fluidity of the combat, of the battle, the action. Yeah, that's huge. But also, we talked earlier, and again, bringing up facial expressions throughout this. The sequence with Monkey Prince and Black Alice, Lori, and I love just that, throughout this issue, all the facial expressions that Black Alice has been brilliant, has been absolutely wonderful. Love just how she's drawn, how she looks. It completely feels the vibe. But then you get the moments with Supergirl where she goes from fear to just, it's on, and some of the cool moments with Power Girl, where she's just like, gut check time. Let's hit them with everything we got. I tend to lead with my face. I love those kind of moments that we're getting from her. And then into the cave with, again, with Poison Ivy, but she is beyond Poison Ivy still. This is still that Poison Ivy. It's kind of really jacked up on powers, and who knows how the rains are affecting her even. So I loved seeing just all these different characters come into play, and again, not just the coolness of the physical action, but just that the facial, the body mechanics, just the general art stylings that's conveying the story has been just absolutely brilliant.
I like the bit where we got to see, like, after Mary got them into the tower, you got to see, like, the who's who from the DC universe of the magic users step forward, right? I mean, we're seeing characters that you got to, like, really take a look at. Who's that? Wait, who's that one? Oh, that's that. I mean, it's really cool to see, like, so many of the characters from the mythos being brought out. And realizing that, like, these characters, whether they have power or not right now, access to their magic or not right now, their experience alone in these type of situations makes them an immediate asset. And that part I thought was really great.
Yeah, I'm taking it that they do have powers.
I do too.
Or it may be the limited stuff, and they'll need Alice to get back the full power back to them.
We're seeing it the same way. I guess what I'm saying is, though, you take a look at that cast of characters and you're recognizing no matter what their current status is, I guess is what I'm getting at, they're going to be, like, effective. They're going to be use. This is a game changer, them being there.
Oh, big time.
What do you think about Neza? Did Neza possess Batman? Is that what happened there? Or does his power connect with Batman because of what happened? Because you see it coming off of him, that black kind of like mist coming off of him and circling around Bruce.
Right.
I'm guessing Bruce is not the only one inside him right now.
Well, you think back to, remember, they couldn't siphon a lot because they didn't want to have the demon intertwined with Bruce fully.
Right.
What they didn't want to happen happened.
Yeah.
And I think we got a little bit of Bruce, we got a little bit of the demon in there, and that's going to be an interesting play, who's in charge. Because of anybody to possess, Bruce Wayne is the one you don't want to because of the discipline. But also, you think back, that he doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with a Kryptonian. You think about it, he didn't target the Kryptonians because of possession. So we've got Kara there right now. And I don't know if she's going to be able to fight off the demon. If she and Talia can do a tag team to get Bruce freed out of there, I don't know. And I think it's going to be an interesting play, because that, again, was absolutely, oh boy, that is potentially a really bad situation.
Yeah, that really stood out for me was those particular pieces. And I enjoyed that. I liked the wrap-up of this issue in particular, where we got to, or this particular story in this issue, where we get to finally see King Fireball and King Fireball with Damien one-on-one. Now, Monkey Prince and Black Alice are still with him, right?
Yes. Monkey Prince and Black Alice are still with him. And in the Monkey Prince story, we see the connection that the Monkey Prince kind of has. So that's why part of me is wondering if Damien kept him back intentionally.
I got to tell you, I'm surprised, jumping to the Monkey Prince story, I was surprised at, I don't know why, I guess I wasn't thinking of Monkey Prince being such a focus in a crossover like this. I really like it. At first I was like, really? We got Monkey Prince in this? And then the more I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And especially this story. This story really does a great job of building up a history with Neza and him. And when you think back to Mark Waid's run on World's Finest, you get to see kind of, all right, this really does make sense when you think of the historical piece that we know about these characters, even from World's Finest. But I will admit, I was taken aback at first when I saw him being spotlighted on the first cover. I'm like, really? Monkey Prince, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, me too. I was like, and I loved this story because, again, it gave us some background on who is the Monkey King, and gives a little information for the Monkey Prince to know about the past of who actually is, the King Fireball. So there's a lot going on here. This little backup story filled in the gaps for us. And actually, it really helped us. It's going to help show, it's going to lead towards the salvation, the actual defeat of King Fireball.
Yeah, especially with his dad, King Bull Demon, being such a big focus in that story. Because
Right.
I really liked seeing the King Bull Demon story. I liked seeing this idea with Neza. Did Neza make a certain choice to side with the angels or not? And was that the Monkey King influencing him? And I love that I chose to put it on, didn't I? It's such an interesting turn of events as far as showing some kinder, gentler times between father and son with King Fireball and stuff like that. I really liked that backstory build. I got to admit, I'm a little behind on the Monkey Prince. This has got me jonesing to get caught up on Monkey Prince for this. I'm thinking in my head, I could just jump to issue 10. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go jump back to that book and really get caught up. Because it's one that's been, not that I didn't like it, but it's been a book that I've kind of let lapse. And so it's doing what the story's supposed to do, right? When you connect with characters like this in the story, it's supposed to draw you back to their book. It's doing it for me. So are you one that would jump to Monkey Prince? Are you caught up on Monkey Prince?
I am not caught up on Monkey Prince. Mm-hmm. And like you, this got me wanting to go back and reread Monkey Prince and go through that. So, and I think, again, one of the nice things about this is not being caught up, I wasn't lost. And They did a great job, so I'm not lost. They told the story because they're assuming not everybody's going to read Monkey Prince. Well, now you got a taste of the Monkey Prince. You got a taste of the story. You can see the connections here. You may be like, hey, let me go check this book out. Let me do some reads on it, and see what is his side story.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a key with these kind of crossovers is to garner some interest in potentially checking out a book that you either were lapsed in reading or were never reading at all. And it did a good job of that because that's a book that was continuing to stockpile for me just because of so many other books that I've just been interested in reading. I just haven't gotten back to that one. So I'm glad he was in this crossover because I will say the backup story got me really intrigued to follow some more about what's going on with Monkey Prince. We'll see, if that pulls me back in.
Oh, no, you don't!
So, Jim, for the second segment on this episode, I thought it'd be fun to just talk about Assault on Krypton and We Once Were Gods, just casually, and just talk about some of the tie-ins of this particular event. So, with what's interesting with this is not what I expected at all. I figured we would be getting certain events that were happening in the beginning that would lead me into these particular books. And yes, there's an element of that, but so much more. These are almost standalone short stories that our Lazarus Planet is showing how the Lazarus Planet event is affecting major characters. And that was something I did not expect from all of this. I didn't expect these to be little anthologies. I guess I expected them to be more of a mini series type of thing. Were you expecting an anthology from this book?
No, I didn't know what to really expect. I'll be blunt with you. And because the main story, and I was kind of thinking when this first laid out, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be your traditional story, and they're not telling it that way. So when Assault on Krypton, I was expecting Clark, John, Kara. Those would be the Kryptonian characters. They would show how they're affected by this, and they didn't. We got John, but not. But that's So I was like, it completely kind of threw me on where this was going to go, what this was going to do. The Assault on Krypton. That was okay. That's how the Kryptonians are affected. We were gods. That's how these people are affected. So it wasn't. I wasn't expecting in little short stories. I was expecting one story told affecting how the characters were.
So the interesting part of this story is this opening story, Gone Dark, really is about using Dreamer to try and track down the current Dr. Fate, Khalid. Is he alive? Where is he at? Can we tap into somehow who he is? And she's going into dreams into his mind, but also this is, again, a Khalid who is connected to the Helmet of Fate. Yeah. So she's circling around. I loved the use of dreams in this. I've been watching Sandman, enjoyed watching that whole event. The idea of, I was a big fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies and stuff like that. So anytime you get a chance to take stories and focus on dreams and the different power set, I did not expect this at all in this book, because with Assault on Krypton, I was, thinking a very different direction. And now we've got her jumping in and tracking down the Helmet of Fate in there with Khalid and talking more to the spirit inside the helmet than she is speaking to actually Khalid himself at that point, which was great. But a lot of this is set up. She tracks down the helmet, and in that process almost is overwhelmed by what she is experiencing, because it says only the beginning. So I'm assuming this is stuff that will play out later in Omega. I don't know.
Or the next, isn't there another chapter on Assault on Krypton?
Oh, maybe, yeah. I think you're right. So, which would be a continuation of these stories?
I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I liked how, one, Dreamer character is awesome. So I'm glad we've got her in the comic book universe. And I'm glad they're using her, for the big events. And she wasn't just a one and done. They're bringing her back and they're using her in this. And it was funny because, I loved how we do see her in experience here. She's, going through the path and this and that. She's like, hey, I can save the future. And she goes and, and the helm's telling her, don't do this. And she does it. And it looks like she's pulling the helm out of somewhere. But is that causing further problems? Because the helm's saying, no, don't do this. So is this a frying pan fire situation? Did I save the world? No, you just really ruined it.
And just to be clear, Assault on Krypton is only one issue. I was looking it up myself. So besides the books that we're talking about on this particular episode, we've got on the 31st, Lazarus Planet Legends Reborn. February 7th, we've got Lazarus Planet Next Evolution and Monkey King number 11 coming out. Monkey King 10 already came out January 3rd. February 14th is Dark Fate number 1. February 21st is Omega number 1. February 28th is Batman vs. Robin number 5. March 14th is Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods 1, which is a 4-issue series that will end April 25th. And there are 2 issues of Wonder Woman, 797 and 798, that tie into this as well. So that's the reading order for this particular event, or list of books, I should say, for this particular event that are coming on. I was with you that I thought that Assault on Krypton was a mini, but I think I got that confused because of Revenge of the Gods. I knew Revenge of the Gods was a multi-issue miniseries, but I figured as long as we were talking about it, we should probably jump and see how many books are in this particular thing, which, by the time, like, looking at how that's laid out, that's just about right. Because, you know, you don't want to overdo it, but you also want to give us a good, firm, meaty story. It's funny that Omega comes at a certain point. Then there's a Batman, and I didn't realize that Batman versus Robin has an issue number 5 coming to it.
Yeah, and what is that the aftermath? Is that I don't know.
I don't know
either. Yeah.
So then we're at the Kryptonian garment district, and you get to start seeing. This is the one where we first start to see some new powers manifesting in people that don't traditionally have powers. You got this thief who now all of a sudden has these fire powers, and he's going toe-to-toe with John Kent. And I like how they kind of make this friendly connection, but he never stops really being a thief throughout the whole process. I liked this story a great deal.
He is a thief, you know, and again, it kind of like had that Catwoman Batman vibe to it. You know, where this is who he is, and I like, you know, just I don't know. He's one of those. He's a thief and he's a bad guy, but he's not a conquer the world bad guy. He's not a kill, you know, slaughter innocent children bad guy. So he is breaking the law, but when he's needed to help out, he does help out. He does help, you know, injured people. He does do, you know, the right thing, you know, but he still does his thing.
Yeah, I actually liked that distinction, that he was a character that would have that kind of thing. One of my favorite characters has always been, when she's used right, Mercy. I love her relationship with Lex Luthor. I love that, like, Lex clearly likes her, clearly trusts her, but also will clearly throw her under, like... She is before Damian was talking about in Alpha about like Monkey Prince, I should say, being cannon fodder. In this particular case, Mercy is very often cannon fodder because it's business for Lex Luthor, and Mercy would totally go that's her job. I mean, that's the right thing to do. She wouldn't gripe over that, I don't think. That's my impression of the character.
No, actually, and this is who she is.
Yeah.
And I liked how Lex does recognize her as someone of value to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's not, you know, a sentimental, emotional value. He does see that she does have some, you know, she brings something to the table. You know, and to the point, even when she's blasted with the energy, he does ask her, "Are you hurt?" You know, so there is some general concern towards her physical safety, you know, but it's still beyond that because, you know, Lex will 100% throw her under the bus, you know, and she's got a job to do and she goes and does it. And the thing I love about her in this is Lex is just like, hey, let those people die. Who cares? That's nothing. And, you know, and he's even kind of caught off by her compassion to save them. And she's like, this isn't about compassion. It's economics. You may be the brains, but that sector is the heart. And if one thing that gets under your skin, it's losing money. And I loved how the fact that she's recognizing, hey, we got to protect that, not to save the innocent people, because that's what the heroes would do. We got to protect us because we need to make sure you don't lose money.
Yeah.
And I love just that notion and just that her understanding of who Lex is. You know, whether that was her true motivation to help those people, whether she was, you know, being a hero kind of moment where she wanted to protect the innocents, I don't know whether that's the case or not. You know, but I did enjoy seeing her mindset and her logic that she presented to Lex.
What's interesting is there's a respect there. And she's like a valued asset to him. She values him as an employer. There's an interesting working relationship there because when he says stuff, she listens. Your judgment is impeccable, Miss Graves. In times of crisis, you've shown me you flourish. Lesser folks fall apart under pressure, but you thrive. And she's holding on to that, like, and tapping into it when she's stabbed through. And I love that like is the catalyst for her to start thinking through, you know, you are the knife. You know, don't wield the knife, you are the knife. And she actually becomes literally becomes the knife. I liked that evolution in powers. I don't know if she's going to keep those powers, but man, if there's a character that I would love to continue down this pathway, it's Mercy.
Yes, big time. Because they've had her be a cyborg and a robot in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that she's now gotten these cybernetic powers because of the energy storm, and she was knocked up against the Lex's armor. So that's kind of where the birth of this came from. I like that she's got her powers in storyline. You know, for me, this was a really cool moment.
The Power Girl story was really cool because I've been really digging the character's return and getting to see more of the character. I also got to say, I really liked the art in this one. It's Marguerite, Sauvage, and I know I'm just going to butcher it. That's why I wanted to do that, who did the artwork on this. And I thought it was just really cool artwork. That's what I did like about this being an anthology. I thought every story had a unique look, a unique flavor, but there was this interconnected piece between them. And I was jonesing to see some more Kryptonians. And this idea of this story with Power Girl, where she's being attacked mentally, you know, where about her, you know, fears of being alone and that she's a parasite and, you know, those pieces where, you know, she's under this attack that leads her to Omen. And this is a good event to do exactly what I didn't expect this to be such a lead in to future storytelling with characters, but this is clearly that, where this is leading people into where DC's going from here. And it makes sense to do this through this Batman event, right?
Yes. And again, this one ties directly into Omega as well as Action Comics 1051, where we see Power Girl and, you know, working together and actually, you know, working on these powers that kind of just appeared for Power Girl. You know, so it's kind of neat that this side story, or however you want to word these things, is again continuing on, and it's not just dying here.
So, you know, some of the DC books that are coming out of this, they have this ad, you know, for the dawn of DC there, and it's Action Comics 1051 actually this month, as we know. February is the first issue of Superman. March is the Adventures of Adventures of Superman, John Kent #1. Unstoppable Doom Patrol #1, which I didn't see coming. Harley Quinn #28. April has Green Arrow #1. Superboy the Man of Tomorrow #1. May had, and I think the Superboy the Man of Tomorrow, that is Connor Kent, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I think that was the story on that one. May has Batman the Brave and the Bold #1, which I'm excited for. Cyborg #1, Shazam #1, and also that's the new Green Lantern book's going to be coming out that month, which has Hal and John. The front story's Hal, the back story's John, I guess is what that book's going to be now, is my understanding.
Nice.
And June is the Penguin #1 and Steelworks #1. And they said, you know, they say at the bottom more titles to be announced, but I was excited to see some of these announcements and getting excited for what DC's doing. I'm just ready for forward movement with this company as a whole. And I'm not talking about just the comic book arm, but just the overall thought process on DC. That was something that I didn't expect this story to feel like it was so timely with everything else that was going on. And bringing back characters that I really wanted to see in the spotlight.
Yeah, actually, it's funny when they announce big events and when they announce changes and this and that, you know, you can easily say, oh, it's just a money grab. Oh, they're just doing this for a money grab, you know. But when they actually are tying it into stories and they're making it part of their events, it kind of takes it beyond. Because, yeah, business has to make money. If the business doesn't make money, they don't continue writing stories and it disappears. So they have to have stuff that gets in, you know, and, you know, works their bottom line. But I do enjoy when it's not just a change for change, where it's actually tied into the story. And there's an actual event, you know, surrounding the events that happen, and that the big events have consequences in the universe. So we're seeing that with this dawn of DC. We're seeing that with these changes. They didn't just do let's just change it up on the earth. Let's just, you know, flip the universe on its ear. No, it's a gradual build. They're telling the stories as to why these changes are happening. So I'm very happy with that. And so far, all the stories that we're reading that are tying into this and they're going through this, I'm enjoying. So I'm like, I'm okay. Let's continue on. I'm cool with that, And I'm one of those guys who always used to not like that kind of stuff. I'm like, I want my status quo. I fully admit I used to be like that. And it's cool seeing how they're playing this out, how they're changing stuff around, and they're letting us experience how it's changing.
Well, it's interesting so let's be honest. When you start doing issues like this where they're teases to new material, not every story was a tease to new material, but a lot of them were. There is a certain money grab to that in the sense that this is a business and they've got to make money. But what the job is with this is to tell compelling enough introductory stories that you are going to want to continue on to at least some of these books, right? That something is going to spark from you out of this that you're going to want to read that you aren't reading now. It's a good move. How successful this was as an event. Here's the thing. You and I both liked it, but we already were going to read all of these books, right?
Yeah.
What the real success of this is going to be is how many new readers to any of these titles did Lazarus Planet lead to? If it at least gets people latching onto some of these books, or to try them out at least, then it's successful. And that's part of the key and I like when they do it through storytelling. I'm with you. I prefer that to releasing an entire line right now and not really having a plan on how you're going to get people interested in reading them. This is a good way to do it. You knew we're going to do this big DC Universe event. And yeah, it's a Batman event of sorts, but which is easy way to draw in your biggest population of readers, right?
Yep.
But it's cool because I'm looking at this one, Lazarus Planet, We Once Were Gods. And I was like, well, that's an interesting name. I didn't know what this was going to be about at all. And it leads to this really cool story that brings back something that I really loved from Aquaman, was the idea of, this underground, this reach area where, these characters are from. And I love that it's this thing that was put in place during Jeff Johns' run, exploring the further depths of the underground world. I don't even want to say Atlantis because it was so far beyond Atlantis. This area that you didn't know that they're bringing back and further explaining now. The trenches, and this idea of these creatures being ones from the trenches that are now being brought out to the light, and they are creatures who don't understand our interactions. It was a creepy sort of story that was compelling. Like I'm really excited to see more of where Aquaman goes.
Well, I loved how, again, I did not see that coming. 100% completely no idea what was going on with this. You're seeing this creature, you're seeing these people. I'm like, what is this? And then even when Aquaman shows on the scene, it took me a minute for him to explain who they were. And I'm
Agreed.
like, oh, that is brilliant. That is absolutely. Then you go back and you reread it, and you see, I can see where it's they're animalistic, how they are more, how. And again, it's this creature now has, because of the rain, because of Lazarus Planet, they've now changed. They're not the monsters anymore in the bottom of the ocean. They got to figure out their place in society. How is that going to affect Atlantis? Can they breathe air and water, or can they only breathe air? What is their deal? And that's something I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, and it's an area of Aquaman I always thought was interesting, that Jeff Johns started branching us out further, and other writers started taking it more, the idea that there are other kingdoms, there's other areas, there's things that have been lost and forgotten in there, and bringing that back into this and making it more of a horror feel in it within an Aquaman story. I didn't see this being an Aquaman story until he was revealed, and I was like, really? This is Aquaman, huh? Cool. We continue on to Martian Manhunter. Boy, he's a character I have such a roller coaster of interest in. There's times where I just love and I'm intrigued by the character. There's other times where he just kind of fades into the background for me, if I'm making any sense. This story was one of the ones, there's been runs where I've just loved the character, and both in JLA and his own solo books. And there's been other times where I just, and admittedly, I didn't pick up the book. I wasn't like motivated to follow what was going on with this character. So he's one of those characters with DC where my interest in him like wanes. It kind of goes in various different directions. This was a good story. It was a great story to get me intrigued by him, his status quo, wanting to see more of him and where he was going to go. I like the costume, and the whole look. I like what's going on with some of the people being affected by Lazarus Planet, where this is a doomsday story, which I thought was kind of cool, where this guy's possessed by elements of doomsday, and John makes the mistake of trying to cure him, trying to pull that into himself, and he makes a fatal mistake where now that doomsday's taken him over, and it's become a part of him. I thought it was such a just really cool, compelling story where he has to make a decision on how to deal with it until he transformed into this doomsday gem that I don't know if we're going to, obviously at some point in time we're going to see again, but I thought it was really a great story that seems to have a conclusion in this, especially in, with him and Clark, kind of like sitting there together and talking about it. And I like that not every story had to be this teasing to be followed in the Dawn of DC, to be followed in this book, to be followed off of that one. It was a good point in time to put in a story that had a beginning, middle, and an ending that I do feel like could play into something down the road and can continue on. But I liked in this issue, they made the idea that was going to be a story that would just wrap up nicely.
Yeah. Well, and again, you got this everyday person who got these powers, and you see him stepping up, helping by being able to pull the emotional pain from people. And, and when when Martian Manhunter gets sucked into it, he steps up, he saves Martian Manhunter. I love that we get this character, this hero they introduce, for one issue, not even a full issue. He's introduced and he's gone at the end. And I'd love for him to somehow survive this and be able to come out of it, but the way this is laid out, he's done. That's it. He's crushed down into a psychic gem of blood and pain. I was just like, wow, that is something that gets you, and you see the sacrifice, and you see, John and Clark have this moment. I was like, this is an awesome story. It's a painful story, but it's an awesome story.
This Lazarus Planet story with Diana was really, really cool because you get to see her in Bia training in the beginning, which I really enjoyed seeing that training sequence between the two. Kind of that, I like the idea of getting the idea of how do Amazons live day to day? What do they do to continue like having fun, growing, owning themselves as warriors, getting on equal footing with each other? And then it turns into this whole story where these kingdoms are these armies are being resurrected. And they're coming back on the scene versus the Amazons. And you're like, oh, it's great. They're going to fight and take down that army, of course. But what if they're not the only one? What if multiple armies that they fought are being resurrected and coming after them? And I loved that sense of danger, but I also loved the resolve. Themyscira has lain low, the armies of men since our earliest days, Theseus. The armies of the dead will fare no better. And I love that, there's still that defiance. There's still that rally cry of, I'm going to stand with my sisters and we are going to overcome this. But I like the sense of danger that's coming for the Amazons. And I want to see that. I'm like Revenge of the Gods. I'm all in right for that little sequence.
Yeah. Well, and again, I loved just you've got the battle going on, which is always wonderful. And I loved how Diana is like, their blades are made brittle by the sea. Strike hard and fast, they will shatter. I love that little attention to detail that these were rotting, undead armies. So they're going to have weaknesses on their weapons. So they're able to do that. And then just when the rest of the Amazons rode in, I was like, oh yeah, it was a great, just that feel good moment. And, yes, they're going to win this. No problem. Oh no, this is just the first, this is just the intro. This is the initial battle. You haven't even fought the war yet. And I loved seeing that. That really, as you said, got me 100% excited for Revenge of the Gods.
Yeah, super great. The interest, I don't know why, I wasn't surprised to see Mary Marvel, Shazam, sitting there in The Price of Eternity, but I didn't expect it to kick off right away with the new Black Adam, with Black Adam's kid. And I was glad to see that, because I'm really digging the Black Adam miniseries. I like what was being done there. And it made a lot of sense to have these two teaming up to try and somehow save Billy from where he's at. And I'm from a kid in my childhood, the live action Shazam series was just super cool to me. I loved watching that show on Saturday mornings. So I will always have a soft spot for this character. So the comeback story is like really exciting for me.
Now my question is, because I'm still trying to figure this out. Does Billy have powers again? Because he absorbed the Rock of Eternity into himself, instead of it being the other way around. So does Billy have powers, or is Mary the only champion of Shazam?
I think Billy does because of that.
I think so, but again, I'm not 100%.
When he says Shazam, we see Shazam standing there.
Right.
But then they were sent back. I don't know. I mean, I guess in my mind, I'm assuming yes. But I don't know. So, stupid boy, your actions severed my connection to the Rock of Eternity and locked me out of my seat of power. How many times must I fail to learn my lesson? Sharing the magic of Shazam has only ever led to ruin. So I'm guessing in that moment, Billy took power in that sequence. Yeah. But we're going to see what ends up happening. So this 4-issue miniseries with Revenge of the Gods focuses on a lot of ground, because we're going to have the Wizard Shazam. We're going to have Wonder Woman fighting these armies. I mean, there's a lot going on in that series that I didn't expect. This is not what I expected from any of this. And I guess some of it I didn't know what to expect. But I think that's what's really intriguing me right now, is this is heading in a direction. I mean, we're in the introductory phases of Lazarus Planet, but boy, do they have me intrigued on where it's going. I'm still not quite sure where the story proper is going to go. But there's more than one thing going on here. So it's an interesting piece. Did you have a favorite story out of all this, or favorite character that you wanted to follow? Or did it get to that point for you?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you, because it was one of those things where, as I'm reading it, I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool." Like the Wonder Woman story always has me Wonder Woman stuff. The Shazam actually has me curious about the Shazams. And again with John, seeing where he goes, I'm always going to read John because he's an awesome character. But I think the ones that did surprise me probably are is dealing with Mary and Billy, because while I read the stuff, I'm not like a hardcore Marvel fan, the Shazam family, or Marvel family, whatever we're calling them now. So I think that one kind of really got me excited for the Revenge of Gods, along with the Wonder Woman story that's going to tie into that. So there should be some interesting stuff play out that way. So I think I would say that's probably got me the most interested, maybe.
Yeah, for me, I think surprisingly the Aquaman story. I think because it was such a surprise. I don't know why I wasn't expecting Aquaman to be a part of this. But especially with the fact they're going to the trench, because I feel like there's so much more to explore there with those characters that I want to see more and read more of the trench. I want to know more of where that's going. So that I would probably say is my favorite out of the batch, at least so far, that I'm most intrigued by. But there's a lot to love here.
Yeah. And it's funny, the Dreamer story that we talked about. I'm curious what's gonna happen with her. You look at the different Lazarus Planet stories. There is a Lazarus Planet Dark Fate, which could be very easily be the Helm of Fate, and Dreamer and all that stuff could tie into that. I don't know. It could be directly into Omega issue. It's one of those things where, like, where does this go next?
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming that is going to be a Dr. Fate story, but you're right, because Dreamer. Yeah, no, actually, I'm going to take it back. I think you're right. I think it's going to be because of Dreamer. I think it's going to be both, right? So, yeah, I take it back. I think you're right.
And just like we have Lazarus Planet Next Evolution, that very easily could be Aquaman.
Sure.
Or it could be just dealing with the people, evolving due to, the rain.
Yeah, I could not be more excited. This is really cool.
Yeah.
Like a human helicopter, the Flash rotates his body, rising faster, faster.
So, Jim, let's jump in and talk some speeding bullets. So, we're going all the way back to some news from January 9th, where there was an article on CBR talking about Sergeant Rock deserving and long overdue comeback. And that's a character, it's funny, I've always liked Sergeant Rock. As a kid growing up, I was more of a superhero comics fan. It wasn't because I disliked Sergeant Rock or war comics or even Western comics or things like that. It was, I didn't have a big budget for a lot of comics, so it was usually one or two, and the draw was superheroes. I read Sergeant Rock and any of their Western comics and any of the actual, Army at War, those type of comics that were out there. I read a lot of those comics through flea markets and stuff, where you would get a big box of comics, or if I bought those 3-packs where they were, wrapped in plastic, and the third book in there happened to be a war comic, that was when I read them. Always liked them. I read them. I was, drawn to them, but it wasn't like I have to then go and read a ton of them. As I've gotten older, you always refer to them as palate cleansers. I love these other characters that are in DC that aren't the superheroes, the ones you get the stories from. They throw out two names like Billy Tucci or Garth Ennis to throw out Sergeant Rock. Yeah. Like you can get me in no problem at all with that, which is super exciting. I would love to read that.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And I completely agree with the article. Sergeant Rock is perfect for Black Label. Mm-hmm. Sergeant Rock, Black Label, I'm in. You add Garth Ennis, Billy Tucci. Oh, I'm 100%. That'll really get me going on.
Tom King.
Tom King. Oh my God, yes, he would do a phenomenal job with that.
Because he's doing these 12-issue miniseries with unique characters and things, and doing like really good job with them. Like they're must reads, and they're usually always, if they aren't award winning, they're nominated for something for a reason, because it's just great storytelling, and usually paired with a unique artist that really delivers like an interesting story. I'd love to read a Tom King Sergeant Rock if he's motivated for that. If that's something that he wants to write.
Big time. And one of the things, like with some of the military comics and stories like that, it is kind of interesting in how you have to tell this story. Yeah. Because it does have to be more realistic than what you have with your other comic book characters. Even like the non-superpowered superheroes like Batman, there still is a level of unbelievability that, Bruce pulls off. When you're dealing with stories like Sergeant Rock, when you're dealing with the different war stories like that, you can't have that suspension of the believability. It has to be an actual legit, how things would play out in the real world. And I that's something I enjoy on some good, military stories, and some of them, especially I've read a bunch where it's, they're based on real life events. And when I know that it's based on a real life event, that really, pulls me in even more. Just because you're reading this going, they actually survived that. How did they do that? And some of those stories can just be really powerful.
Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania is coming out. I'm not going to spend too much time on it other than to say my wife and I, it's interesting, my wife's been kind of stepped away from the superhero stuff for a while just because, she lives with me, probably gets too much of it. So I haven't been pushing it. Lately she's been very into watching superhero, like initiated. I want to watch this or I want to see that. It's been the Spider-Man films with Tom Holland. Out of that, she saw the trailer for Ant-Man Wasp, and she said, "Are you going to that?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Have I ever seen Ant-Man?" I said, "No, you didn't see the first Ant-Man." So we watched the first Ant-Man, and she loved it, wants to see Ant-Man and Wasp. So we're going to end up watching that. But today, she was off today. I was at work all day today. And she texted me at one point and goes, I want to watch the third Tom Holland Spider-Man movie or Ant-Man and Wasp. Which one do you want to watch with me? I'll watch the other one. It was kind of cool. So, I mean, it was none of it forced. I love the fact that she wants to go and see this movie with me. So she's getting pulled in. And she got pulled in from the original trailer. Now, this new trailer, I think, is a much better trailer. But I got to say, she got pulled in by the first trailer and started asking questions. So they're doing a good job at promoting this movie to people that aren't us, I guess. Admittedly, I'm using my wife as a measuring stick, but she's wanted to watch all kinds of superhero stuff now because of it. So good job on the trailer.
Oh, yeah. And again, I'm one of those guys where I'm a comic book guy, but I'm not hardcore on all the Ant-Man stuff. I don't think I've seen an Ant-Man in the movie theater. It's always been on the small screen.
Do you like it?
I've always enjoyed the story. So I was like, yeah. And these trailers have me going, I think I may want to see this one on the big screen just because of how awesome it looks. You know, they're doing a great, it's kind of like the Avatar thing where you got to see it on the big screen, you know, and it's kind of pulling me into, I may go see this one on the big screen.
Yeah, I think also with you, when you take a look at the special effects or the storytelling that's there, it's really clear that one's going to be good on the big screen because of, you know, it might be a good one in 3D. It might be a good one you have that larger screen by you, which I think is a pretty big draw. I like driving out your way because of that big screen. Greg Berlanti and Warner Brothers sign a new mega deal. This is great because we're seeing a lot of the Arrowverse shows coming to a close, but Greg Berlanti has been just a part of so many great shows that have been out there, including Riverdale. Every time I turn around, it's like it's another Berlanti show.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're still keeping a relationship with him, and that means more projects because stuff's been really good. Did you see this Bob Layton commission?
That is kind of cool. I like when artists are putting their commissions on and we're seeing them.
Yeah.
I was like, that's neat.
And he is, the nice part about, you know, him was, you know, his history with that Iron Man, and I mean, just his history in general with character. I mean, just a terrific artist. I was a huge fan of his work at Valiant, and it's just cool to see this character. This one I shouted out. I'm a big fan of Steve Bryant, and he has this Kickstarter, Evie and the Helsings, and it's for issue number 1. And I'm glad to see Kickstarters doing this, where it's helping to bring projects to life that maybe otherwise wouldn't. Because out of the pandemic, I'm sure it's a lot harder for writers and artists to get new work out there because everything took a hit, right? So I'm glad that Kickstarter's continuing to be a source. Because I'm finding that every time I turn around, I'm supporting like another Kickstarter of something cool that I want. I mean, that's really all it is. I'm not supporting it for any other reason other than this is a writer/artist that I really like, and when he does a new story, so Evie and the Helsings is one that I'm all in on. Have you watched Velma?
Not at all.
Okay, my wife and I did. And I didn't realize there was all this controversy around it. I just kind of I must have just missed that whole thing. We watched it. We watched the first 2 episodes. We liked them. I mean, I'm not like through the roof on it where I'm saying like it's the greatest thing in the world or anything like that. But I've enjoyed it so far. I did walk in knowing it was going to be different. I knew there was going to be no Scooby-Doo. I knew it was going to be a different sort of take on Velma. I knew kind of like the basic premise of it. So I will admit that probably helped me with my enjoyment of it. I'm not going to say that, I'll admittedly say that this isn't me trying to jump on any bandwagon because I think a lot of the consensus is that it's bad. I didn't get that experience. I actually enjoyed it. So, I mean, it was good, not great, if that makes sense, which a half-hour animated feature for me, usually those are great because I think it's a great animated delivery. That's usually the pacing's really good. It was enough, though, that we watched the first 2 episodes together, and my wife wanted to watch the second episode. I don't know. Will we make it through it all? I don't know. I am interested in watching the third, so they've got me, at least that far. It's not, though, like, for example, I love Harley Quinn. Like, adore Harley Quinn. I love things like Family Guy. Animated features in general. Young Justice. I mean, that's like, a can't miss. It's not that category. So other things come first. It's kind of, we've watched a movie or we've watched a program and we're in the mood for something different. So we'll watch an episode of Velma. And so far, that's where it's kind of fallen for me, but it's not like a destination viewing. So it's an interesting one. So you have any, like, I think you're kind of answering your question already from your response. Do you have any interest in watching it?
No. And again, no. part of the thing always with me is, when I've got the free time, I've got to pick what I'm going to watch. There's a lot more I'm going to watch over this. Because, one, this is 100% something my father has zero interest in. So that means I'm not watching it downstairs. I'm watching it on my computer upstairs. And if I'm going to be up here watching stuff, there's so many things that take a precedent over Velma that, it'll never probably ever be watched by me unless we decide to talk about it on the show for some reason.
See, now you're tempting me. My wife was the actual reason why we ended up watching it. She had seen that it was a Mindy Kaling show, and then, maybe she saw that there was some kind of buzz or controversy around it and was, like, drawing to it. So I'm like, oh, we'll watch it. Watch the first episode and we'll see. I'm glad I watched it. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy it. It's not bad. It's not hitting the, like, animation for me. Like, Invincible's a great example. There's a couple articles over here, and we'll just gloss over them quickly, shouting on Invincible Season 2. Well, Invincible's a must-watch for me. It's not in that category. It's good, though. And it's not one of those where if my wife says, you want to watch an episode of Velma, I'm not, like, sitting here going, really, I got to watch this? It's not that. It's not that at all. It's good. That's kind of where it's at. Batman 2 is in the works right now, which I'm just glad to hear more Batman news. That's really all I needed to hear at this point. These Spotify originals are awesome. And the fact that we're going to get a Harley Quinn with Christina Ricci as Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn and the Joker starts, and Billy Magnuson and Justin Hartley as Bruce Wayne. Yes, please.
Come on, yeah.
Have you been, did you make it through the Batman audio adventures?
No, I haven't. I haven't made it through any of those things. I keep trying to, and it's one of those things where I can't listen to it during work, because if I listen to it during work, I stop working. It completely pulls me in. So I've got to find free time when I'm not working to actually listen to the stuff.
Yeah, I'm the way with the narrative stories too. It's at work I can listen to podcasts. There's a lot of times with like talk shows where I can listen to it in the background and enjoy what's going on. So I will listen to podcasts if I'm doing a project at work where it's a tedious project and like a podcast helps get me through. Even in that case, though, if I'm concentrating on something else, I can't listen to a story. So I listen to a lot of the Big Finish stuff, the Doctor Who, and I can't listen to that at work. I can listen to it on my drive to work and my drive from. So stuff like this really is in my car ride. And I really enjoy listening to the Spotify stuff there. The Spotify stuff's been really good, so I'm excited for more of this. I'm just glad that it's obviously gaining enough traction that there's more of it. The Batman won the Golden Tomato Award for the best reviewed comic book movie, which I'm not surprised.
Yep.
Libra Mayo, so I don't, you read Batman Damned, right?
Yes, I did, but here's the thing. I don't remember it.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I really don't remember, and I don't remember the controversy.
Well, again, there's a scene where Batman's naked in it or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now, as soon as you say, I remember the nakedness, but I don't remember the story. I'll be honest, of Batman Damned.
It's a great story. I really enjoy it. So I've read it twice, and really the reason why I read it twice is I read it the first time through, and enjoyed it, but then like you, kind of like when I stepped away, I didn't remember it. So I wanted to reread it again because I really enjoy Libra Mayo's art. So I read it a second time, And it's really a great story. So anybody out there that hasn't read it, especially now with the fact that we can read this stuff on the DC app, it's a good book to revisit. And I'm finding that there's a lot of stories where I know I enjoyed it, but I read so much that, like, okay, let me go back and reread this with more of a focus. It's gorgeous. What a gorgeous book. And it truly is Black Label. Not just because of that. I mean, I didn't like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so controversial. It wasn't. Like, when you see the scene, you're going to be kind of like, really? This was the big deal? It's not like that, where you're like, oh, how did they go there? I've seen certainly a lot more controversial things with our superheroes out there than this. So James Gunn responds to the rumors that there's been some Superman casting, and I wonder so he says that there hasn't been yet. There's been no casting yet. I got to imagine, though, that there's got to be some dialogue around what direction do we want to go? Because they went the other route they want somebody younger than Henry Cavill, I guess is what they're looking for. They're going for more of a introductory approach to Superman. And sure, I think we as fans are like grasping for any kind of news that any of this is moving forward. And that's normal, I think, at this point in time. There's not a negative to it. I think we just got to realize that they're in the stage that Marvel Studios, which is frustrating as a DC fan, I can say that. They're in the stage that Marvel Studios was in early on, when Marvel Studios decided to take the remaining characters that they hadn't already given to like Fox or Sony, and they wanted to do something with them, and took like this bold move of, making Iron Man and stuff. We didn't know they were going to make Iron Man. We just knew they were going to make movies with the rest of their properties, and had no idea what that was going to look like. I hope that DC managed to pull this off, because there's a lot of potential here. Shout out to Legendary Links with Alex Segura, which is kind of a cool thing. Harley Quinn wins the Best Animated Series at the Critics' Choice Awards. I'm glad to see that getting noticed, because it's really a great animated series, and I'm glad to see that it's getting some notice.
It's an outstanding series. I love that series. Like, you mentioned before how, like when you threw out Family Guy, I'm a Family Guy guy as well. And Harley is another one of those stories where I'm like, I take the time to sit up in my room to watch it just because I got to watch it. Again, another story that Dad has zero interest in seeing.
Can we please get this comic book, like Harley Quinn versus Wolverine, please? I love Alan Davis's art. So whoever came up with the idea for this commission and approached him and said, hey, can you put Harley Quinn against Wolverine? I love the fork, the spoon, and the knife versus the claws. I mean, that was really clever.
Oh, definitely. Again, I love seeing stuff like this. This is the stuff that I miss from cons.
So it's funny, we keep talking about the tail end of Arrowverse and all that, and I'm assuming this is its own thing, but Gotham Knights is coming on Tuesday, March 14th. And it's so crazy that there's a Batman-related series that's coming that is, I'm interested in. I'm going to watch it. I will watch it when it first airs. I feel like I have no idea what this is going to be. Even though I've seen the trailer, and I know the premise that, Batman's dead and his kid's going to be, kind of seeking answers, and that forms a almost Birds of Prey-like team, which I like that whole concept. I still feel like, unlike other shows when they've been at this point, I don't feel like I have a real grasp on this yet. Am I alone in that?
No, I'm still completely clueless as to what this is going to be. But I'm like you, I'm all in. I'm going to watch this one, and we'll see how it plays out. But I want to say their advertisements, they're not doing a good job with it. And because it's not out there. There's been some big stuff going on in, within the sports stuff. And think about just all the football things that are playing on. That would have been a perfect time to get some advertisement out there. And that would be a great time to do it, because I've seen a couple movies and a couple TV shows, because I'm watching various football games, and it pops up like, oh, cool, they're doing that. Oh, awesome. So again, I don't know what the plan is with CW, what they're doing, or if it's CW has its own little CW universe. and they pull people in, and so they've got an established audience base, but I wish it would expand beyond just their normal audience base.
I'm looking over. This is really sad. Jason Pearson, iconic comic book artist and Body Bags creator, passed away at 52, which is, that's my age. It's your age.
Yeah.
This is one of our contemporaries. The sad part about that is with any creative, it's they've contributed so much of their work, obviously, to their fan base. And you just know that person had more in them to give and more stories to tell and more art to share. In their legacy. It's young. That's really young, and it's always sad to hear of somebody young passing away, no matter what they do. So, Everett Starr shouts out on the group, after years of waiting, the Mike Parobeck JSA is on DC Infinite. This run, I hear so much about. I think I've read it. I think I've read some of it at least. And I'm anxious to, he's got me jonesing to read it on DC Infinite because it's, I've heard nothing but, I know I haven't read the complete run. So I'm looking forward to that. That stuff, it amazes me still that we're continuing to get more and more added. I hope the goal for DC Infinite is eventually get everything on there. There's a lot of stuff Golden Age that isn't on there. And I'm hoping they find a way to get that scanned and release it in multiple formats. Release it there, release it so people can buy it. Whatever vehicles they can do to get that out there to make it worthwhile. But that's something that I would certainly love to see. Alpha Richardson's Vixen was posted on there, and that's beautiful. That's a really artistic take of that.
I like when we see stuff like this, where just the artist's take on a character, or just sketches that they're throwing out there. It does amaze me just how talented people are. That I wish I had skill to just sit there and just create something like this. In my head, I could images and all that kind of stuff, but the physical transfer, what's in my head to what's on paper, is amazing.
So we've got one of the internal stars talking about a Deadpool-esque ambush bug. And I love Jared's reaction. Hell, why not? Yeah. And I totally agree with him. To me, that's something that I would love to see. Those type of movies do really, really well. I think they add a different flavor. Ambush Bug is the perfect character to do that kind of edgy film. And if you get it right and really capture the original spirit of Ambush Bug, it could be something that feels really different. And I'd love to see it. I
would too. I do wonder how it would do though in the theater.
Well, does it? I'm thinking that one might not be a theater driven. Well, who knows? Who knows where they would do it? Did you see Deadpool doing real well though? It's because of Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, well, I saw Deadpool doing real well just because of Ryan Reynolds, and also just the sheer. I knew there would be sheer violence and action and that kind of fun stuff. You think back to Ambush Bug, he's got a lot of the tear down the fourth wall kind of inside comic book jokes that Deadpool has, but also Deadpool has the violence and the action and just that that comedic element. So I don't know. Yes, I see the comparison, but I don't know if Ambush Bug would do as well as Deadpool. I would see it in a heartbeat, but I don't know if the non-comic book, non-DC fans who know what Ambush Bug is would go to it. I think that would get tore up by the non-comic universe.
You got to really sell it. I think it's one of those things that they got to believe in it and really sell it. I want you to be. I see what you're. Actually, here's the thing. I want you to be wrong. I see your point.
Yeah.
But I also think if they do it right, they could prove us both wrong. I think it is. There's a potential. The hard part about that is it's such an unknown character. Deadpool was kind of too, though, when you think about it, except to comic fans. We register the fact as comic book fans that we know, well, Deadpool was in the Wolverine movie, though. Ryan Reynolds playing him.
Right.
So, I don't know. The original costume designs for the Electric Superman, did you read any of that run?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a good run.
Yeah, I liked it. And I enjoyed it. And was it my favorite Superman? No, of course not. But I'll be honest with you, any hate I read towards it, I'm like, I don't get hate. I can see disagreements with it, but not hate. And I don't know. It is a concept of Superman and his powers and shifting and whatnot. That's always kind of a neat thing to do. We're seeing that, with some of the stuff going on with Lazarus, with changing on powers and stuff like that. So I wouldn't mind seeing a electric Superman or an electric Kryptonian or somebody with the electric Superman powers on the scene. So yeah, there's definitely some stuff, and this is a cool look to it too.
We got 2 animated series coming on tap. We've got Batman the Doom or animated movies, I should say. Batman the Doom that came to Gotham, which is featured here, and Legion. It was coming before that, and I'm really excited for both. I am hoping in this process, because I think it's one of the question marks, nothing's been said about the future of these animated films. I hope these are doing well for them, because it's a delivery method that I don't want to see go away. Are these important to you? I mean, are they? Because for me, they are. I know I catch them the day and date that they come out. I get my little email buzz that they're out, and I grab them right away. I don't think you approach them the same way that I do. Where do they fall in your importance for you? You don't have to be in the same spot I'm at, but where?
I'm 100% not in the same spot. I enjoy them, and I do catch them, and you usually talk about them on the show. That goes, oh, I got to pick that up. That's how I know. When you talk about the stuff, it's like, oh, okay, let me get this and watch this. And the Doom that came to Gotham definitely. I think Batman does a great job in the creepy supernatural stuff just because of who Batman is. So yes, let's see what this looks like.
So Jason Momoa is sticking with the DC universe, but that is not as Aquaman. Well, I guess they aren't really stating, but I would assume not as Aquaman. I'm assuming as a new character because they're saying it's a mystery DC project. So that's interesting. As far as do you want him as Aquaman? I've heard Lobo as a rumor. I don't know how true any of that. Now take it with a grain of salt. It could be another Aquaman. I guess I would assume that it's going to be something different because they seem to be really. Although in a puzzling sense, there's rumors that they want to keep the Flash. I don't know. All bets are off on what they're doing. But I guess right now I'm going to assume that they're doing something new with him project-wise. Thoughts on him as a different character?
If he was Lobo, I would 100% be all in on that one. I think he would be an awesome Lobo. I would 100% go with that. If he was another Aquaman, I would do another Aquaman with him. I really like him as an actor. I think, and just stories I've heard about him as a person, he seems like a decent guy. So I'm like, yeah, I want to see this guy around. So yes to whatever he's doing. I'm all in on it.
Let's skip over the solicitations a little bit, just because of the fact that we already talked about in the back of the book, some of those, especially things like Green Arrow and Superboy. So we talked about those pieces. The GLAAD Media Award was a nomination for Superman Son of Kal-El number 17 for Outstanding Comic Book. That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, I love this scene in the story because again, this so fit who Clark is. The interaction between Clark and John, every time we get them on the screen together, I'm loving it. It's just something that the creative team that are surrounding him, that are working these characters, really understand who Clark is and what kind of a father he would be and how he would react and interact with his son. Love this scene. Love every time we're seeing them together. I'm so Superman happy right now.
Laura Braga sharing the commission of Delirium, which is super cool with Death. I really love the colors off of that and how much it looks like the design choice wise, her hair's coming off the page. I think it's just a really cool choice concept. Yeah.
Kind of comes alive on you.
So Lee Weeks, his variant from Superman Lost number 2 by Christopher Priest. That is a great shot of Clark.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I really, really looking forward to this Superman Lost. Just the concept of it, when I was reading it going, oh, that looks cool. And again, these are some great creative teams behind it. So yes, I'm all in on this.
Brett Belvin's commission of Black Canary. Very cool. Harley Quinn, a very problematic Valentine's Day special. I think my wife's going to start watching this with me. She was very curious about that, like Harley Quinn. Now that she's getting more into some of the new things.
And again, Harley is this is a great character, great story. Absolutely 100% love the way they're going with her and with Ivy and all. It's just wonderful storytelling. I'm really loving this series. And it's funny because I remember when it first came out, you were so gung-ho on it. I was like, I don't know. And now I'm actually the same way as you are with this one.
I think my wife will dig it. I
100% think she would. I think she'd enjoy it.
Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I know you're you've been more of a D&D player. We actually talked about at some point in time playing D&D together. Have you seen the trailer for this?
I've seen all the trailers for these. I'm 100% all in on this one. I'm going to the movie theater for this.
Yeah, I'm anxious for it. It actually looks really, really good. I'm with you. I think it's a movie theater must watch. That to me is kind of a measuring stick, though. Like me going to the movie theater is kind of like, yeah, sure. No, I mean, like you could sneeze and I'll go to the movie theater. I really like seeing movies in the theater. Yeah. But for you to say that you're going, I think is an interesting sort of piece.
Again, just the cast that they've got going on and just the general. I want to go to a movie theater. I go to the movie theater to enjoy myself and have fun. I don't see a lot of serious dramas, just because I'm like, I don't need to be sad. I've got enough sadness going on in my life. I don't need that in a movie theater. This is just fun, big fun, stupid fun, which, I'm loving it, and I'm going along with what James said on his comment, it looks like big, stupid fun. And I agree with him completely, which is why I'm 100% in on it, because I definitely I enjoy big, stupid fun. This is something that, I want to laugh. I want to enjoy myself in the movie theater.
The Batman Book Club episode 138 had Tom King on it, and he talks about his full plans and some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that went on during his run of Batman, and Jared shouted this one out, and I watched it. It's really good. So if you haven't listened to it, watched it, depending on how you enjoy podcasts, this one is one to definitely dive onto. It was a great episode. The Batman earns 3 Oscar nominations, which I love. The fact that we've got that. Did you see who's going to be Lex Luthor?
Lex Luthor, yeah.
I loved him in Walking Dead.
Anything I've seen him in, I thought he's been awesome. Because I've seen him in a couple of stuff now.
Sure.
And so, yes, I think he'll do a great job as Lex Luthor. Part of me doesn't like the fact that Superman and Lois are no longer part of the Supergirl Flash universe, where we had an established Lex Luthor, but I'm okay with this casting. Because, again, he's an actor who I could very 100% see playing a Luthor that I really enjoy.
So Titans it's not going to be about Titans in Nightwing's book. It's going to be Titans getting their own book. Tom Taylor and Nicholas Scott. I mean, obviously, I think based on the storyline right now, we're probably going to see them in Nightwing, but they're getting their own book. That creative team, just yes, please.
If either one of them are on a book, I'm all in. You get a team you got a book that's got both of them on it. I'm like, oh yes, that's 100%.
Yeah, that part is super cool to me. I've been following this, so they got this great article about the Dawn of DC, just talking some more about some of these books, and I think we've pretty much, this episode shouted out everything at some point in time. If not in this segment, later on in the show, we end up shouting this out. And there's some cool stuff going on with the Dawn of DC. Are you excited? So what is your pulse on this? Are you enjoying the way they're rolling this out? Do you prefer when new books and new ideas are all rolled out in the initial month, and they just keep kind of following them? Week 1 there's this, week 2 these new books are coming out, week 3 and week 4, or are you cool with it being done the way that they're doing it?
I like how they're doing this. I like the layout, and it's a building. It's not just here are all the new titles. Because when they throw out all just the new titles, it can overwhelm me sometimes. Whereas with this, it's this, and then this, and this, and that. And as I said before, I like how they're tying into the story. It's not just release to release. It's they're building on this, and it's coming through stories, and and it's again, yeah, I'm 100% all in on this.
I'm excited for the endings of Doom Patrol and Titans. The fact that they're going to get an ending, and I'm not excited for them to end. I like both series a great deal, but at least they're giving me an ending, and that part is really.
There's got to be respect, and I like that. And that's something that I do miss, because I've had a lot of favorite TV shows that just end, and you're like, oh, come on, couldn't you just give us an ending? But no. So they're giving us a definitive ending, so that's awesome.
Yeah. I want to go tour the Wayne Manor from Batman Begins. I was like looking at that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am really jealous, because that was a great Wayne Manor. I really love the look. Did they do I don't think they did did they do interior shots there, or is it just the exterior?
I think that's just exterior.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure, because they talk about how it's in a state of disrepair and neglect and this and that. Part of me wants to actually buy it and fix it up and live there.
I'll come over.
All right.
Do you got like that kind of scratch to like buy a castle?
Oh, you know me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's in my mattress.
Where's that mattress? I love this picture of Gotham versus Metropolis.
Dude, that is absolutely perfect. And I love this TV show, by the way. Wednesday, I love this.
Yeah, we watched the first episode. We weren't like... I was really tired, and I don't think I like wrapped my head around it. You know what I mean? You know how like when you're like sometimes too tired and you're just not giving it a chance? Not because of any reason other than your just attention isn't there. I was in that place. I've only seen the first episode. I know I just need to rewatch it again and like be alert to it, if that makes sense. But so how far are you in it?
I'm a couple episodes into it already, and I've actually gotten Dad to watch it as well.
Okay.
It's a little bit weird for him, but he's toughing through it. But yeah, I think I want to say 3 or 4 episodes in.
Is he enjoying it?
What?
Is he enjoying it?
Yeah, actually, well, he's saying, "I'll keep watching it." See what happens. Dad and I will sit there, we'll watch TV, and we've got the Fire Stick on the one main TV.
Okay.
So anything I watch through a Fire Stick, it's we're both watching it, and he'll sit there and say, "Sure, go for it," and I can tell when he's just being nice, or when he actually is enjoying something. And he was a combination of enjoying it and being nice. So I don't know how much more I'm going to be watching with Dad. I may have to find time when he's not around to watch it.
It makes sense. It's it's going to be an interesting one for me. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, only in theaters March 17th. So I'm worried for this one. And maybe you think I'm wrong, and certainly go for it. My reason why I'm worried for this one is, first of all, I think it's going to be great. And I guess my question is, was the buzz around the first one enough that people are going to tune into this one? Because I'm not hearing anything about this one in a strange sense. I'm hoping like what happened with Black Adam doesn't happen with this. Am I wrong to feel that way? I mean, where are you at on this one? Do you think, I'm
kind of in the same boat as you are. I'm a little worried about this. I'm 100% looking forward to it. It's looking really good. But I don't know what kind of advertisement, just the hype, heat for it that's out there. And the most recent trailer that we're seeing, I'm really digging, because it's showing enough more of the show in the movie, what you're going to get out of it, but also it's not spoiling it too heavy for me.
Yeah.
I really want to see this, but I don't know if the everyday population is going to say, yeah, I got to see that.
Yeah, I'm super excited because of the first movie. So I want to be clear. I'm not saying I have a lack of interest. I have a complete interest in it. I just feel like this one seems to be like I'm hearing, about Ant-Man, Quantumania. I'm just not hearing the buzz around it.
Yeah, absolutely no buzz. And it's, again, not, I've got my non-comic book people who ask me about stuff. There's been no mention of this one at all from them. I've heard stuff from Ant-Man, heard stuff on, what was the other one that was recently drawing a blank. But no mention at all of this. And so I don't know.
You talking about the recent one superhero-wise, or are you just talking about like movies in general?
Well, the general geek stuff I always get a call on from, I got a couple of people at work who, I'm their go-to guy on that stuff.
They ask you about stuff like Avatar and things like that, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, I mean, Avatar was a big one.
Well, Avatar, that was an easy, that was more of a, hey, you're going to go see that. That looks awesome, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just worried just because it seems very quiet to me. And I guess I'm more tentative these days, and I don't want to sound gloom and doom, but movies are just struggling. I mean, yeah, we've got some tent poles that do really, really well, but overall, movies are struggling in the theaters. And I really want this to do well because I think it's going to be a great film, and I think there's some important messaging there. If it does well. So I'm hoping people will go and see it. And I also think it doesn't help that we've got this crazy messaging about the reboot and all that kind of thing. It's just an interesting time. And I feel this has been a good movie series so far. The first one was great. So I'm hoping for the chance that this one does well.
It's funny you mentioned how movies, it's kind of like the comic book industry itself is in peril.
Yes.
The paper comic book. The movie industry is in peril. They're still making movies, but they're not making them for the big screen.
No.
It's the Prime original and Netflix original and things like that. And it's not the big screen that they're making, and they're getting names for those movies. They're getting actual really solid actors who are like, hey, I'm going to do this. And some are even going into limited TV series instead of a movie, a 7-issue limited run kind of stuff. And I'm seeing a lot of that kind of stuff pop up, where if it does well, maybe there'll be a second season on it. Maybe there won't. I don't know. We'll see. And it's been kind of interesting because that's really hurting, the movie theaters now. And yeah, I'm getting worried about that side.
I like that you called it the movie theaters.
Right.
You're right, though. I mean, I totally get your point. I actually agree with everything that you're saying. I think it's an interesting time, and I think some of it is this bobbing and weaving of the pandemic. I'm worried because I feel like the direct to streaming is not sustainable for big budget Hollywood films because of what you figure what your subscription cost is for a streaming service, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think you can have as many. You're going to get your smaller budget movies. You get the occasional tentpole, but you're not going to get like what we're used to in movie releases. There's got to be a theater crowd too for that. So it's an interesting time. I understand why people are not flocking to the theaters. That there's we're still kind of in this tentative health phase, and I'm hoping everything kind of normalizes even more, to the point where people are willing to take that leap back into theaters again. But I'm a theater fan. I love seeing movies in the theater. And it's not just the ones that are like the movie theater visual spectacles. There's something about the communal aspect of being in a theater. Even if it's like, sometimes, you'll go to like some underground movie and there's only like 10 people there. Yeah. It's still, there's something about that experience, about being in the big theater. And I just never want to lose that experience. You're linking that to comic books is spot on. We're seeing something that's right now going through a struggle that I'm hoping it comes back for. We're seeing lots of theater closures and like amazing numbers that we need these spaces to be able to go to these. And I'm fingers crossed that we come out the other side of this and continue to have the opportunity to get back to a multiplex experience like we used to have. I guess the question is what do audiences demand? And that's going to be interesting to see out of this. I like watching movies streaming. Don't get me wrong. We watched that Megan, that new horror movie.
Oh, okay.
That was the big popular one. I'll admit, I like to see stuff in the theater. Nobody was really talking about going to it with me. It came out on iTunes where you could buy it, for the premium price. So I did that, and my wife and I watched it together at home. I don't think it was like $25 to watch it at home. But when you think about what you pay for the film, versus what a movie theater ticket and paying for the film would be like, it was a good movie. I really enjoyed it. Now, would I have enjoyed it more in the theater? Probably, because I really liked the theater experience. But I was glad to see it, because the clock was ticking, and I kind of wanted to see this big movie that, is already generating a sequel. So I hope this hybrid sort of in the theater and streaming kind of presentation is making it for big budget movies that they're able to continue just making a wide variety of choices for us. Peter Laird, and I hope I'm not butchering his last name, it's Laird. He is the co-creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it's an example of a lot of these creators. I don't necessarily hear their names spoken, but he does this interview, and actually I haven't had a chance to listen to it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime interview on Cartoonist KFAB YouTube channel, and I'm going to definitely listen to that, because I loved Were you a Teenage Mutant Ninja? I mean, we've talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles during the crossover. Where were you at? Did you ever read the comics, or was it like animation or film? What was your draw to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
The animation was my initial, that cartoon series was my introduction to who the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are. And then family friend Angelo read all the original stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so I remember one time I was talking about it, he's like, here, he let me borrow, and I read some of the original stuff. So, yeah.
Which is really good. The comics are really, really
dramatically
good.
Different, too.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Dramatically different things. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I like that, actually. I love, because I love the animated series. And the animated series was first for me, and then I started picking up some of the comics in the shop. I would have read more. Now in years later, I've picked up collected editions of it. But, back then, it was my budget wouldn't sustain it. And that was the only reason. I loved it. It was great. So I read broken runs of it. When I had extra money. I always enjoyed it. I mean, it's a great series. Kingdom Come Art Cards by Alex Ross. That series is so beautiful. Yeah. This is going to make... I want to read it again. It's been so long since I've revisited Kingdom Come. And I want to be clear, I want to pull out the Absolute and read it again.
I may have pulled out my Absolute when I saw these cards.
Did you really? Yeah. Well, I get it, because I'm right there.
And I always have just a love for Alex Ross artwork, and just not even just the art, sitting down and enjoying the artwork, but I also enjoyed the story, and just there was so much that happened in that series that I absolutely loved. So yeah, I kind of pulled out my Absolute, and I was just flipping through it, just taking some time and savoring the artwork and just enjoying it. I did an art read through on it.
Did you? So, do you know anything about Robert Garcia at all?
Not really, but I saw the one comment about that. Okay, so this isn't a real congressman. And I'm like, what the heck is going on with this?
Well, he was the one who was sworn into Action Comics #1.
Okay.
Remember that whole bit before? So I know that part of it. I don't know a whole lot about his politics and things like that. I'm just admitting my own ignorance here. It's more so I don't know if I agree with his politics or not, or anything like that, and I'm not going to go crazy into that. But I'm looking at this retweet from James Gunn, where if James Gunn doesn't present the new DC plan by February 1st, I'm calling him in for a congressional hearing where I will ask the tough questions everyone wants to know. I'm going to say this. I secretly want him to not reveal it now by February 1st to see that. I want that to happen.
Okay, so this is an actual real congressman.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
This is the one that was sworn in. So, to Action Comics #1. I guess that's what the comment here was. So, I'm laughing that super cool. So, he's really a comic fan.
Nice.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods director David Sandberg has been getting some flack over showing the lead hero punch a dragon through a building, with some people asking if this is some Man of Steel style collateral damage. Sandberg delivered the perfect reply. No, but don't worry, it's fine. We jumped to controversy. It's like before like the films have even come out. It's interesting off of that. I am worried about this movie. I'm not about quality. I'm worried about this movie doing well. I feel like this is I think the piece I was worried about it before, where I figured like Black Adam was going to overshadow it. I still think that's going to be the case, which has me worried. Because look what happened with Black Adam, where it did well, but not what they wanted it to do.
Not well enough, and there's not going to be another one. And they're completely taking away the story that was led into and introduced that would have been epic of Superman versus Black Adam. And
So I'm worried about this film just because I feel like it's going to get lost in the shuffle. And I mean, and there's no shuffle to get lost in right now. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong and celebrate like the numbers. I want us to be able to do a Speeding Bullets where we're like, yes, did you see what Shazam did?
Yeah.
And I hope here's the thing. It's a movie I haven't seen yet. So I'm hoping when I see the movie, I can go, and it was great. Because on paper, it looks really good. So, in the trailers.
On paper and in clips, it looks good.
I'm with you.
So it's like, but again, I don't think the advertisements or something, but again, it's in March.
Yeah.
So hopefully maybe in February, they'll start ramping it up. They don't want to saturate the market, and get people, bored of it. So maybe that's their plan. I'm hoping. But February is coming up in a couple days.
Yeah, well, I don't think... Here's the thing. I mean, if they're trying to keep people from getting bored of it, they're doing a good job. Because I'm not bored, I'm worried. Bored is not the word I would use right now. So I'm hoping that there's a plan to ramp this up. I'm hoping, I guess here's where my concern is, and this could be unfounded. So I'll just kind of lay it out. My concern is right now that we're not going to promote or support some of these DC releases that are coming out because we're heading in a new direction, meaning that we'll give some loose support to it, but we won't really heavily hit them because we're heading in a new direction anyway. And we really want people to get ready and excited for the new direction when we announce it. I'm hoping that's not, and that's not me being conspiracy theorist. I just, where are their marketing dollars going to go? And it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with this. That's like, I like any fan where you sit there and try to speculate over something that you don't really have any basis for. I'll say that. I got nothing back in this at all, other than I'm just worried for a film series that I've really enjoyed. And here's what we haven't heard. What happens to Shazam in all of this? Are they going to reboot that? Are we going to... Because the first one was really successful.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Fingers crossed on that particular series, because I like seeing that character on the big screen. And this was fun. Shazam was fun. It's a different sort of film. It's fun. So, we'll see. Well, thanks for everyone who posted things on Speeding Bullets, and thanks for giving us an opportunity to catch up on it.
Spinning with great speed, the Flash creates a protective vacuum around himself.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address if you prefer to contact us that way. RagingBullets.com is our show website, which feeds into Twitter. It feeds into our Facebook fan page, and that's where you'll find the news on upcoming episodes. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community. And I want to thank the whole team of people that go there, post comments about news, all the stuff that's going on in pop culture right now, other podcasts that are out there that they're found that are of interest to our audience. Really appreciate the community aspect of that, and I was glad that we got a chance to do some catch-up today on Speeding Bullets. The About Us section of the show website is where you can connect to us on social media and gaming platforms. We love connecting with you. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have this absolutely brilliant DC Batman black and white based on Denny's Cowan artwork. It's 201.24 Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they have that great Coming Soon section. This is a place where you can create your own wish list for upcoming books that you're interested in reading. Batman Beyond, the Neo Year trade paperback, is coming out January 31st. Milestone Compendium 2 is coming out January 31st. Air trade paperback, Volume 2, which is near and dear to my heart, is coming out February 1st. There are basically, for the next few months, you can go and wish list items that you want to make sure that you're pre-ordering and getting for yourself either from InStockTrades.com or from DCB Service using the wish list system. And I really love it because I read a lot of comics through all companies. I'm really interested in trade paperbacks and omnibuses for things that I haven't read or maybe I don't have collected. And this is a great way for me to kind of budget things out because it's hard to keep up with this. Because there are some months where, and Jim, as well as I do, there's some months where my DCB service order gets really big and I'm like, I can't put another thing on there right now. This is a chance for me to still get those books and basically space things out in a way that matches my budget. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back, and we're going to be talking about Batman Spawn, and we're going to be talking about the Batman-Joker Deadly Duo. We will see you next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Sean,
it's right there.
Jim,
I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's up